What is going on, THL? How are you guys doing tonight? I hope it's spectacular. I'm not sure when this video is going to come out. I don't know why I asked when you're doing it, how you're doing tonight. However, I'm doing something that I only do late at night and I only do occasionally, and that is I'm going to pack and smoke a bowl of Zag. Now, a lot of you may not know what Zag is, and when I tell you, you might just want to not watch this video. But I recommend that you do. I recommend that you do because it's something that really every hookah smoker, if you consider yourself someone who is extremely into hookah and you like the hookah for the culture and you like hookah, you want to feel like you're a hookah guy. If that's how you feel, this has to be on your list of shit to learn how to do. What is Zag? Let's discuss it. Now, what Zag is a relatively unflavored tobacco. It comes like this. So it's literally just a brick of very black tobacco. And what it is, it's a very strong tobacco. Tobacco itself is very flavorful, and it's only flavored with molasses. So there's some sweetness, but it's not like what you're used to. If you haven't smoked Zag and you don't know what I'm talking about, that's really all I can tell you is that it's just not like you're used to. Now, everyone doesn't smoke Zag the same way. There's lots of people that will mix it with double apple and then it's a scab mix. And there's lots of people that will take Zag, even if they're not mixing it with anything, and they'll pack it like a regular bowl and smoke it with foil. And that's fine. And if that's what you want to do, if the method that I'm about to tell you seems a little bit too extreme for you, I understand that. But this is how I do it. And the only time I do this is when it's late at night and I know I can't sleep because I'm under stress or I'm under pressure or I over-caffeinated, whatever the case may be. Have a couple beers and get this bowl packed. So I smoke my Zag without foil. All right, so I'm now going to show you the pack. My angle is absolutely not the best. I apologize. Believe it or not, it took me a long time to set this view up. So that's as good as it's going to get for you people. Now, what I'm smoking out of today is the Japona Edgy Bowl. I do usually like to use a classic Egyptian Edgy Bowl, but my Egyptian Edgy Bowl is relatively small, and it's going to be easier to display how to pack this with a little bit of a bigger, deeper bowl. Not that this is extremely deep, but my Edgy Bowl is very, very small, and it would make it a lot harder to demonstrate how to do this. So what you're going to want to do at first, now, I genuinely don't always do it this way, but I think that this is the easiest way to pack it and to explain how to pack it. So I'm going to show you guys a method that I believe is the best way to do it. As long as your end result is the same, it's okay if you do it in a different order. But what I like to do, or what I like to tell people to do, is you start out, you want to break it up so you don't have the big giant chunks, and I'm just sprinkling it in for now. I'm going to sprinkle it in to where it's almost to the top of the bowl. And you want to have even coverage because the next step, what I'm actually creating right now is going to be my top layer. So I want to get kind of even coverage. You want to leave a good amount, like it would be way underpacked right now if I was to just foil it. Like that's what you're looking for. Like you want coverage of the bottom, and you want it to kind of be a little bit even. Now this it's a little bit tricky, mostly because the shit is so sticky. It just sticks to your fingers a lot. And the next step is kind of the hardest step, so to speak, especially with having that. So I'm looking at it right now. I'm not sure how well you guys can see it, but it's not super even. So I'm just kind of filling in a few gaps and literally grabbing just a piece or two at a time of this stuff and putting it where it belongs. Now, I mentioned before, what I'm actually creating right now is the top layer. So what you want to do with this top layer, now you want to mash it all down. So you want to mash it down, and what you're trying to do is to create an even puck that's going to have a flat surface. So you want to have this super, super dense. Like we're talking Tangier's dense, but it's never going to feel Tangier's dense because it's just not as wet and it's sticky and it's going to stick to your fingers, and now it's going to stick to the inside of the bowl, and it's a little bit of a headache. But if you can get it so that it's nice and even, like I'm missing a little spot right there. Let me grab a little piece of tobacco, put that on, press it the fuck in. I am literally pressing as hard as I can right now. If we were to try to breathe through this bowl, you most likely shouldn't really have any, if very much, if any, airflow coming through. So that is step number one. Step number two is trying to extract this from here as cleanly as possible without breaking up your puck. So what I'm gonna do, should have grabbed my pack mat, but like I said, it's 3 in the morning. I'm gonna try holding the bowl upside down and see if I can smack it out. And I did, look at that, perfect success. So now we have our puck. This is going to be your top layer. You wanna try and keep it together. If you need to move it to the side, I'm gonna end up pressing it even tighter after I finish packing this bowl. So now what you're gonna do is grab some more of this brick of tobacco and sprinkle it in. And you're gonna wanna sprinkle it in just like you did the last time so that it's just below the rim. You don't have to worry as much this time about it being even, and you're not gonna smush it down and everything, because at this little section here, you do want some airflow. So I wouldn't call it a fluff pack. You're gonna do more like an AF pack or a normal pack, depending on who you first started talking to when you started packing bowls. But that's another story for another day. So I'm sprinkling it in here. Again, I am going to end up patting it down a little bit just to even it out, but you really want to make sure that you're going to have some airflow. And one of the biggest things is you want this to be relatively, without being pressed down too much, so that it's like, you don't even want it semi-dense. But you do want to do your best to have an even surface, because as I believe I've already mentioned, the big surprise of how I smoke knock, which was the original first way to smoke knock, the first way to smoke, or not knock, Zag. It is made by Nakhla, but this was like literally the original tobacco. That could have been a fucking catastrophe, but it wasn't, and I'm already like almost done this clip, so I'm gonna leave it, and you guys can make fun of me if you like, but I caught it, and I did take Ambien, so I'm a little bit slow. Now, my hands are gross. What I'm gonna now do is try and grab this puck. Let's see if we can keep it mostly together. It looks like I kinda can. So I'm gonna look to grab this as one piece, like that, put it back in my palm. It didn't really retain its shape as well as I had hoped, so I'm gonna look to try to shape it and then smash it down. And I am really pressing about as hard as I can. It's gonna be all over my hands, just like that, and now you have a relatively flat piece. Take out stuff that's obviously gonna be too much, and now you're just gonna try to place it back on top in an orderly, even fashion. Now is the really tricky part. So anytime that you do this, the stuff is so sticky, it's going to stick to your hands, and now you wanna try and make an even surface, and you wanna do this a little bit at a time, and then lightly pat it down, so that you're not affecting the tobacco underneath of your puck too much. That's why you want to get it kind of pucked out in the beginning. Now, a lot of people will pack their bowl and then make the puck in their hand like I did, but just kind of do it by eyeballing it. I genuinely usually do it that way. However, I think that this is a better method to teach it, because it's going to be a much easier way to have your puck set up, and you have an idea already of how thick your puck is, because one of the things that you don't want is to have this overflowing with tobacco, so that it's going to be very easy for your coals to fall off of your bowl, which is a risk that you're going to run if you decide to smoke this way at all. So let me turn off the camera real quick, get this on. My coals are almost done. We'll go over the pipe that I'm smoking, we'll go over the setup that I'm smoking, and then you guys will get to see exactly what this looks like. Okay, so I really wanted to show you guys what the top of the bowl looks like right now. It's pretty flat, it's pretty even. What we have is a very, very, very thin, but very, very, very compressed top layer. that's going to act as your foil or as your HMD. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my coals. I'll be right back. We'll put the coals on and you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so I got my coals. I got my tongs. I got them backwards, but again, we're gonna keep going. I'm not editing this video, all right? This is what it is. You can watch it or you cannot. Now, I got 3 Cocoa Earth cubes. That seems like a lot, right? Especially for the fact that I'm not going to be using foil. And Cocoa Earth cubes are relatively high heat, but I'm okay with that. So what I'm gonna do is put it on, press it a little bit. I'm not sure if this mic is picking it up, but we already got some sizzle. Obviously we got some sizzle. We're putting it directly on top of the tobacco. Let me take another one and put it here. Now I'm not putting the coals on the bowl edge at all. We are going to smoke this bowl by heating it from the top to the bottom. The bowl will still heat up and it will heat up all around, but your goal right now is to get this top layer charred. Now, I'm gonna try and lean in to see if you guys can hear this sizzle. Hopefully you can, because I'm pretty sure I burnt my ear. Now, what I'm gonna do now is let this sit. We're gonna let this sit for 3 to 5 minutes. I'm going to have to rotate the coals because the bottom of them are getting wet right now, so they're going to want to black out. And what we really are trying to do, I want to wait to inhale until that top layer is charred, because it's going to be gross. Right now, if you take a pull, it's going to taste like burning tires. It's going to smell really bad in your house. And if you live with anyone, whether it's a girlfriend, boyfriend, wife, husband, roommate, they're going to kick you out. It's really, really bad right now. And once I do start smoking, it's still not going to be super enjoyable. But it's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. So I'm going to let this sit for a couple minutes. After a minute or two, I'm going to move the coals around. Again, when I use foil, I always say you want to keep your coals in the same footprint. This is a different situation. You're turning a top layer of a tobacco into an HMD. So you want to get it solid and you want to get it even throughout so that it's going to heat your bowl regularly as it gets down to the fresher tobacco. So I've actually been talking for 2.5 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and move these around. And when I do, if the mic was able to pick up the sizzle, you'll hear more sizzle. Now let's pick this first coal up. As you can see, it's blacking out on bottom already. This smoking like this is a lot of work. It's not easy. Blacked out on bottom, and I got a piece of tobacco stuck to it. Blacked out on bottom. I'm not sure how well this is showing up. It's completely blacked out on bottom. Now, that's not because the coals suck. It's this method of smoking that's doing this. Now I'm gonna put the coals back. I'm gonna almost drop that one, and I'm gonna put them in spots that they weren't. So I'm gonna press it in again. Take this coal, flip it over so I'm not putting it on the black side again. And I'm gonna put this one right here. And again, when I'm putting it on, I am applying, I mean, not like a ridiculous amount of pressure, like you're gonna, be like really jostling shit around, but I can see already that as I'm moving this, that top layer is relatively solid. I'm actually gonna move this one a little bit more to the center so I can make sure that I have an even layer. And at this point, I am at 3 minutes. So I'm gonna hop off real quick, but what I'm gonna do is grab my wind cover and put it on and let it sit for at least another minute, minute and a half. Okay, so we have the wind cover on. I did rearrange the coals once again while I was off. I think that I've had the coals on here now for probably about a total of 6 minutes, and it should be enough. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, okay? So if my first pull is very unpleasant, I'm gonna tell you. And usually, even if you wait the time, so like if I had started smoking as soon as I put it on, I would've had 6 minutes of fucking hell, and there's no reason to do that. There's no reason to take your time, go make yourself a drink, find more beer, open 3 or 4. Do whatever you gotta do. But, let's try this first pull. Let's see how it goes. Let's see if I know what I'm talking about. I might not. I always purge at the beginning. I don't know why. absolutely spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. You get great tobacco notes. You taste the molasses. It's got a sweetness to it, but it's not sugary sweet. It's definitely not like anything else that you smoke on the market. Even other like old school type flavors. Nothing is the same as this. And it's just getting started. So the sweet spot for this stuff is right about at the 20-minute smoking mark. Like the 20-minute mark to the 40-minute mark is really when it's the best. This bowl is deeper than what I usually use when I do Zag. I usually don't try to get a real long session with Zag. I may end up getting a longer session out of this bowl than I usually do because it's so much deeper. I'm not sure. I'll keep you guys updated. But this is really just the beginning. That being said, I wouldn't really expect much bigger clouds. This style of smoking is not about cloud chasing, and especially smoking it out of a pipe like this. I'm smoking it out of a very restricted pipe. I'm smoking it out of a very restricted hose compared to the hoses that are popular on today's market. Now, you can smoke Zag the exact way I showed you out of any pipe that you have. You have a B2, you have a Regal. If you have one of those Russian pipes, I recommend that you don't, just because I think it's sacrilegious, but we'll talk about that another time. Really, even the B2s and the Regals, I definitely recommend, if this is something that you're interested in, buy some first. Get yourself a good Egyptian bowl. They're like $5. And buy some of this stuff and see if you like it. Even if you don't love it, but you're interested in it, it smokes and tastes better out of a more traditional draw. So if you have a Sheikah, if you have a KM, if you have something weird and old, like I have great people who like Syrian pipes, all that kind of stuff. Like those types of pipes, to me, are meant to be smoked for these kinds of flavors. And you can really learn to appreciate, like if you have an old KM that you don't use anymore, you can really learn to appreciate it doing this type of smoking method. Because it is literally, when people first started smoking hookah, tobacco, it was this. This is it. This was before Double Apple. This, at one point in time, was the only commercial tobacco flavor that was in existence, in production, available. So, let's take another puff. Let's see how it looks. Now, I'm pulling extra hard because I want to have clouds for you guys. But really, when I smoke this, it's more like this. They're kind of wispy. They're not huge. It's very restricted. So it takes a lot of lung capacity and a lot of lung work just to do that size cloud. If I was trying to take pictures to stunt in THL, first of all, I would not use this tobacco, but let me try and take my biggest possible hit. And that's about the best cloud you can get. But I will say this: taking hits like this, of this, it will get you buzzing. I can't even get my words straight right now. I smoke a lot of dark leaf, and I smoke a lot of Tangiers. This is real dark leaf. This is a very, very strong tobacco, and it's just tobacco and molasses. That's all that it is. It's better tobacco, in my opinion, than what Nakhla uses for other flavors. I very much enjoy the tobacco notes in this. You may not. You may not. Now, I'm a guy who has smoked pipes. I'm a guy who likes cigars. So I can appreciate a more nuanced flavor, as opposed to, I want this mint that's going to punch me in the face, or I want these, super, super sweet dessert flavors that are going to just suck my dick. And I love those kinds of flavors. That's mostly what I smoke. But I feel like doing this brings me back to what hookah should be. It's a relaxing experience. It's something that can be social, but can also be incredibly rewarding on your own, and especially something like this, because right now I need to move these coals around, I need to play with it, and you really need to pay attention. If your hits start feeling real throat heavy, that means you have a little bit too much heat. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to take a coal off, because of the way that you're smoking, you need to just move shit around. So right now I need to take the wind cover off, I gotta move the coals around, I'm probably gonna throw the wind cover back on because it's not getting too hot, but my last couple of pulls, I had a little bit of a more throat hit than what I want. So I'm gonna do that. I'll check back in with you guys in a few minutes. Okay guys, so about 10 more minutes went by, maybe a little bit less, but I moved the coals. When I moved them, I pressed them down just like I did the first time. You wanna do that every time. Rotate them so that the same spot that's on the bottom isn't on the bottom, but I moved them around, I pressed it down, and there's no sizzling. That means that my top layer is now completely done. That means that I should be in that sweet spot that I talked about. If it's not too hot. And it's not. So it doesn't burn, but it is much higher nicotine than what you may be used to. You are gonna get some throat hit, you are gonna get some throat tickle. Anyone out there who vapes, like let's just say that you vape at a 3 and your favorite flavor, they only had it a 6 and you picked it up, you'll know what I'm talking about that throat hit. It's the nicotine, it's a nicotine throat hit. Right now, I'm buzzing extremely hard and the taste is absolutely incredible. If I was to try to explain the taste, I really don't have a good enough palate to do this, but I'm gonna do my best. It's not earthy. So when you think of something that's really mostly a tobacco flavor, usually you think of something very earthy. Because of the molasses that's in it, it's still sweet. So it's like a sweet tobacco flavor, if that makes any sense. I don't wanna compare it to like a Swisher Sweet, but that really is the closest comparison that I could think of, because it's not flavored, but it's sweet. And that's really the closest comparison that I can think of. And it's really not a very good one. So if you're like, oh, I don't want to smoke Swisher Sweets, it's really not that, but it's tobacco, but it's sweet.